how we're doing. Does that sound good to you, Marcus? Okay. Like it here rather than a little higher. That's okay.
Hello, can we put our phones away, folks? Crystal students, let's put our phones away. Thank you. We're going to get started soon.
I didn't hear you guys come in. I think so often the way these things go is you're supposed to file in and you're supposed to be introduced to someone. And I think it should be the other way around. I think we should pay respect to your collective time, especially. I'll introduce myself as we go. But your accomplishments, of course, are what they are. They always are in this place. I think the latest school magazine dealt with sports this time, but it could have dealt with farming or anything. We'll always find someone in this audience to be exceptional at something. And we have, what, a world's great yachtsman, a world's great golfer, some New York caliber performers who are all doing great work. And so you have that individually, and then in aggregate you have this great body of work. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to blow smoke as far as the respect for that. I'm talking about collectively, if you guys can get together and demonstrate to yourselves that you can move the ball forward at all about anything. Anything you want without fighting, without rationalizing, without talking and not doing anything. If you can just act collectively for a moment, and I have a suggestion for you, part of the reason we're here, a call to action, if you will. But if you can do that, maybe you can convince yourselves that you can do something collectively to help save the world. It's a bit of a leap, but it comes from, we think, we're all working on this, it comes from at least the belief to begin with. And with all the fighting and with all the arguing and the excuses, you guys are being exposed to the opposite. The first way I introduced myself in the Bay Area is I say I took the only path to see you, which means I was stuck today and every day in traffic in Tiburon, where I'm from, along Tiburon Boulevard. If you've ever been there, it's a 6-mile stretch, and we parents drop our kids off there, pick them up a couple of schools along the road every day, and we can't get together algorithmically or otherwise to change our driving habits by 5 minutes, 15 minutes. Even our 11-year-old knows that if we leave 5 minutes too late, it's all over. So we parents who are pretty long up there on treasure, on time accordingly, especially when it comes to our children, and we can't solve this problem so far. Now, my daughter and I did individually. We have this Batman Avengers-like concoction where we ride side by side in an electric tandem bicycle, and we go 25 miles an hour, and we just weave through it all, and it works very well. But we haven't exactly inspired the community to do that. So we've solved it individually, but collectively this traffic is still a problem. And the thing is, whether you guys are working on a problem, or whether we parents up there are working on a problem, if we can't get together on traffic that is holding up our day by hours needlessly instead of minutes, then how are we going to get together on global warming? And it's easy to say. The nicest glass of wine that I've had in my life was about this time last year at the Opus One winery. If you've heard of that, that's pretty much the best that this country produces. And in the 2013 bottle, it's pretty much the best that most countries produce. And I mean, okay, a better bottle, a better glass was the evening that my wife agreed to marry me. That was good. That was 19 plus years ago, or when our daughter was born 11 plus years ago. But as far as maybe the efficacy attached to this particular glass, I'm at the Opus One winery, and I'm sitting on their deck, and I'm looking out at the winery. And then a couple of the top guys come, and they sit down, and they say, you know, take a few meters to your left and look at the mountain. And one of them does this like a Hollywood director to frame just the 2 acres of grapes that are, as the co-founder of the late Mondavi called them, grapes from God, due to perfect sunlight and perfect irrigation and water. You have the grapes that go into these bottles. And then you hear from them. This is where the efficacy starts to hit. You hear from them that they basically pray every season that the fires don't take these grapes. Or, of course, smoke, which is equally terrible. In fact, you can taste the smoke in some of the years, and they rationalize, oh, it's smoky. That's not good for wine. And so you have these things, and you have multi-billion-dollar enterprises doing, at least in one example, some of the best things that this country can do, and they can't defend themselves against the ravages of the fires. There's a fire burning right now. I have my phone on, 2-3 miles from my daughter's school, up at the Lucas Valley. The fires are even coming for George Lucas himself, the creator of Star Wars. And this is spooky stuff, right? What's going on with the planet and what we're all trying to do collectively to try to figure this thing out. Now, what I noticed at Opus One is that they're all nice people, and they're really, each year they work on massaging the grapes and trying to innovate, working the land. They use technology and other more basic things. And maybe they believe collectively that they can actually solve the problem of the fires that are devastating this area of the country. Maybe they think they can do it, and we're studying it closely, and if they can, maybe we can follow their lead. But so far, they're haunted by it. So I had the beautiful wine at lunch, then at dinner, and then I went back to the Meadowwood Hotel. Some of you may have read about that. And we had a lovely evening there with my wife and with our daughter and with our bulldog and with some members of the team. And we went to sleep with these grapes on our minds and on our lips. And we were up at 4:30 in the morning due to emergency response because the entire hotel burned down. That was, we were out by 5 and it burned down by 7 in the morning. And you can read about that. That was this time last year. And that's what's happening. I designed a piece of technology that Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, just a random thing, happened to put in their IoT lab in Houston. It's kind of cool because you have a young child and Hewlett-Packard is like the greatest tinker lab in the world, is how we put it. So we flew out there and we did some demos, and my daughter was out and we had a nice time. And we were in the outdoor pool in the hotel, and it was very stormy, and the winds and the this and that, a little spooky, and we said, okay, and we left the next day. And by the time we landed in San Francisco, we heard that that entire IoT lab was under 2 feet of water, and like half of Houston, that the rains came and the winds blew, and it was just a terrible storm. And so my daughter, after Meadowwood now, in wine country, looks up at me wide-eyed and says, you know, have you done something wrong? I mean, this is wrath of God stuff that, you know, keeps following us around. And I said, no, but this is the planet that we have, you know, inherited, and this is how we're living. And so someone, somewhere, or some group of people has to do something. So we solved the problem of the traffic, one of those problems with our electric bicycles. We don't know how to solve the fire problem, the smoke problem that's ravaging us, but we're working on it. Groups of people and scientists are working on it. So then I said, this global warming thing with an 11-year-old, and I sat to a long dinner with my wife, and we decided we got to jump in and do something. We've got to solve the problem somehow. And it translated into becoming some of the largest fundraisers for the current president back then. And I'm not going to take us down that well of commenting about how things are going there as opposed to anything else, but which is part of what I wanted to say today. Your collective energy is one thing and how you're working together. But being a good person first, before trying to be competitive, before trying to take over the world. The current president, at the very least, is a good man. I spent, you know, a few hours with him during this event. He was in our offices, co-hosted him with Senator Feinstein, other things. This is a man, I have a picture with him on the wall, cupping our daughter. That's what he does. I've hired, you know, hundreds of people in what I do, from companies that I invent from zero. I'm a reasonable judge of character. It takes the same 6 or 7 or 8 people to run a company of any size, but I hire them all. You drag them along with you, venture after venture, whatever. And this man is, I think, a good man. I think he is a quintessential example of being good before being competitive. And that's one of the things that I want to share with you today. I sold my last company to Oracle at the height of Larry Ellison's power, who is known as a modern-day Genghis Khan, but he is also pretty good, I think, to his children, at least financially, and not just because he's Larry Ellison. I mean, he's really parted the sea, and they've had amazing careers. A lot of the movies you love are produced by his son and the team. So what if a necessary ingredient to true stratospheric accomplishment, like Larry Ellison, is actually some kindness in some stretch of the imagination or some form. The greatest football player who ever played in his position, Ronnie Lott, is someone I called with 1 day notice. He sits on the board of a company that was critical to a family member. And he cut me off in 5 minutes of conversation, just like he's breathing. We hung up the phone, and he accomplished that for the family member. He called in a favor. He's Ronnie Lott. A really, really nice guy. And I just wonder if some of the way that he operates actually made it into the locker room during the greatest, 49er season and team ever with someone like that, if it makes a difference. And it might. If you see Ronnie Lott in a coffee shop, I am convinced you can go up to him and he will be really nice and give you an autograph. Now, that's not an example of something that I want you guys all to do collectively. Please with that guy. Don't assault it. But he is a really nice figure. Someone who's more at the center of the universe than anyone that I've ever met in this industry. A gentleman named Eric who runs Zoom, also a friend and an investor. And think of the massive responsibility. I mean, how much have you used that platform, especially last year? He's a super nice guy, super nice. And he's attacked from all sides, from the government sometimes, from antitrust sometimes. He just had a huge deal blow up for various reasons that he was working on. But he is one of the nicest people I've ever met, for whatever reason. And I wonder if that's partly what's in the culture over there to make that such a hyper-successful company. So I wonder if the idea that you can be nice, not just because it's a good way to live and be a good human being and wear a mask and get vaccinated and all this ridiculousness and all this stuff. I mean, come on, to be reasonable citizens, but I wonder if it's also a necessary ingredient for success, even in one of the most hyper-competitive areas in the world right now. So I have been running a company for the better part of 9 years, and it's been tough. All the other ones have been easy, and they've turned out relatively well. This one has been hard, and so you have to stick with it. It's the same investors and the same employees. So I decided to do something crazy a few years ago and contemplate actually starting another company concurrently, which we did this year. And this company is actually, in its first 9 months, a lot more successful than the other company has been in all of its 9 years. And that's not to disparage the other company. This is being filmed, and my engineers in the other company are watching. I'm not trying to throw rocks at the other company. I'm just saying sometimes the universe conspires and different things happen. And so we did this. This other company happens to be in the NFT space that you guys have been witnessing, which I believe, I ran a company during the .com era. I think the NFT space is 10 times at a minimum in the crypto space what the .com era was. And of course, some of the most successful companies in the history of capitalism have come out of the .com era. But this is very different. This is changing, we think, almost everything. I understand the birth of the internet, but almost everything is touched by this stuff. And so we were in this lockdown, like all of you, and our 10-year-old is starting to suffer. She's on Zoom, respectfully, Eric, she was on Zoom too much. She was doing different things to try to adjust, and so all of a sudden we jumped into the ocean and we really dug into scuba diving. And she became, at age 10, now age 11, basically a professional scuba diver. She did 26 open ocean dives all around. We jumped into Raccoon Strait even, which is a shipping channel, and swam underwater for a half mile without any visibility. Just crazy stuff, this little girl. She sunk her teeth into that. And not the electronics, this is the only room I think I've ever been in where I don't see one person on the phone. I know it's not me. I think you guys have some sort of, either the Wi-Fi gets shut off or you have some sort of discipline. But this is, it's pretty legit. I gave a commencement speech at the University of San Francisco. That's where I coined I took the only path to see you. I was stuck in traffic that day too. And I went up there, and you can't be late for that. You can't be late for this either. But I went up there with thousands of students and their families flying in, and some of these students are on their phones. And I said to them, my father's commencement speaker was Martin Luther King, and my dad didn't even show up to that speech. He was 20, and I really thanked them, profusely for showing up at something like that. But this is great. I have your attention, at least somewhat. And that is, what can you guys do collectively together right now to try to improve the world just a little bit, given, I agree, it's kind of going off the rails. So we did the scuba diving thing, and we made friends with the San Francisco Bay Aquarium. Have you been there with the beautiful exhibits and the sharks and everything? You'll see us diving in there if you go there once in a while. We volunteer, we feed the sharks. My daughter feeds Rays these huge sand dollars, and you can hear them crunch. The aquarium embraced her with open arms, given the work that she's been doing. And so we designed an inaugural NFT for this place to adopt one of their giant fish. It was a 250-pound sea bass, and you can bid on this NFT, and if you're the winning bidder, you get to name the fish, and you get pictures of it through its lifetime, which is no small feat because it's supposed to live for another 50 years. And we sold this thing for $15,000 in this NFT company. And we've sold millions of dollars of NFTs since, et cetera, et cetera. But now we're in the process of digitizing the entire place. And so the aquarium has given me permission to say, today, if you have nothing better to do tonight, tomorrow, the next day, go look at the octopus, not up there, you can just look online, or the fantastic sharks, or anything that moves you, and sketch a doodle, or if you're an artist, really put something down, and send us an NFT of that particular creature. And what we'll do is we'll gamify it, and so that people can use their cryptocurrency to feed your image and have it grow like you're really adopting the fish, or maybe you'll come up with something better. But let's work together in this room right now to digitize the entire San Francisco Bay Aquarium. We'll sell these things for millions of dollars. I'm not sure legally how I partner with you. I'll talk to your teachers about that, but there's nothing wrong with money in this business. But you do something, and at a minimum, we're raising millions of dollars for these guys to further protect the ocean, to do something. We launched just a couple of weeks ago to Farallon Islands, and you get out there, and it's different on your lungs if you've been there. The water is different, just 20 nautical miles, 25 nautical miles off the coast. The whole world seems different because it's so untouched. So we got to do something. So if it's driving an electric bike, if it's doing NFTs for a museum, if it's meeting people at the top of their game and appreciating things that make them who they are, that may make society better, rather than they're so competitive and just killing everyone off, that makes a difference. It gives you a glimpse of what can happen, and what can be done together. It gives you a glimpse at some solutions. But you're very smart. All of the rooms in the Bay Area are packed with people who are very smart, or in any major center out there. And so it's easy to be a bit cynical and really be a bit down in terms of stuff that's going on. But whether it's the halls of power in business or politics, or even celebrity, some of the stuff that we're doing with this new company in the NFTs, we're working with all kinds of really interesting movie stars and such. People have gotten the gist of what happened last year. People have gotten the gist that if we won't collectively get vaccinated, I was always a good citizen in turning off the lights in my house and recycling, but I never thought that would make any real difference. But if we won't do this, we are showing ourselves that we can't do something that's truly hard. And so the message today is, if you can show yourselves that you can do anything, anything at all, it goes an awful long way to trying to then figure out how, either together or with new groups, as you go on to different endeavors, that you can actually change things and actually really improve things. So I wanted to share that thought with you about my experiences as far as being a student here and sitting in the seats that you're in. I had a fabulous time in 7th grade through graduation, and that's when I matriculated, and through graduation in 1990. Some of my closest friends were made here. I sailed across the Pacific Ocean with one of them. I went to college with another one of them. Maybe you're having similar experiences. There's something very special about this school. The only reason our daughter isn't necessarily planning to go here, that's a loaded statement, is you don't have the ocean. That's your only weakness as far as I'm concerned, and she's so passionate about it, so we're up coveting that in Marin. But I have looked fondly at this place. I've visited it from time to time, and I have found that, you guys do have the ingredients where you come from and how you're gathered together. I think you can take this room and put it anywhere in the world, with your parents too, anywhere in the world, and you'll have more or less this. I understand the home court advantage that is the mansion, and I understand things like the weather and thereabouts, but you guys are special. And I don't get to do this very often. It's mostly to business school students who are already sort of lost. And you know, we're trying to talk with them about creativity and trying to talk with them about how this type of thinking really is a necessity. So I appreciate you listening for a moment. I'm happy to take any particular questions, but the message from Silicon Valley from one guy who's worked with some of the best and some of the best for years and years and years is there is a way to be a person that you may not be exposed to as often as you should be. There's a way to be a human being. There's a way to do this without ever getting in a lawsuit. Our politicians think that they are unscathed because they've only been in 500 disputes. I've been in 0. Not one across 500 some odd employees, all in. Of course we've had our disagreements, of course we've had our problems, but not once did we step on each other's neck and turn into that. No divorces. I mean, they don't tell you this here. There's no class dedicated, but marry the right person. I mean, really. You know, that. Mr. Hoybar is one of the best that I remember. He never said that to me. You know, that's what needs to be said. Just find, you're young and you'll get there, but with this type of stuff, because you get out there, and whether it's starting a company, and whether it's starting a family, and you'll get to these stages, if it's hard to begin with, if it's not beautiful to begin with, all it is just going to get more and more treacherous. But if it's fantastic in the beginning, and you have this great thing, and you've been blessed with this and this and this, you have a responsibility to your own significant other and your own children. Thank you.
So if anybody has a question, they can ask, and Mr. Thompson and I will come up with the mic.
Hello. All right, I just want to start by thanking you for the speech. That was excellent. I know you just talked about being an entrepreneur and starting organizations to create real change. So as a high schooler right now, what can I do to start on that path?
You can go home, and again, as your time permits. No. I mean that. After you get everything done, you can go home and over your computer, with the most respect, instead of what is typically taking up your time, which is beguiling because it's brought you to where you are. You can file a patent application if you haven't already. It doesn't cost a lot, it doesn't take a lot, and then you are an inventor. And you tell that to the admissions committee when the time comes, or you tell that to the this and that, and you are an inventor. There's nothing cooler in the world as far as I'm concerned. And that's something that you can do immediately to start to just join this battle, any idea that you have. I think one of the biggest problems in my business is we try to operationalize everything. My daughter comes up with all kinds of crazy stuff. My dad invented the fast track, except he didn't. He's an academic, and he talked about it for 10 years, all due respect, and he didn't do it. So, but these ideas and these, they're everywhere. And I don't believe what Edison said. I don't believe in 1% inspiration and 99% inspiration or perspiration. I think that's a fallacy. I believe that the idea is a beautiful thing. It's a romantic thing. It's the best part of this business. It's, I think, why I started this other thing, is because I've been marooned in the first one, and I needed the idea creation thing, cathartic or not, in the second one. So go home in a good way and see if the best idea you have and then start protecting it and start joining the army of inventors is a suggestion.
Is this working? Can you hear me?
So thank you. Like I really like your enthusiasm for like positivity and being nice and like I really like that's very politicized and the vision behind it, like I think that's amazing. I was just wondering, what's like the meanest? No, maybe like maybe you don't want to answer that question. Like, what do you think we should do? Or how do you understand like the mean parts of like corporations and the Jeff Bezos?
But you want an example of the meanest that I've come across? Is that really the question?
Yeah, like, what do you think we should do about like that kind of culture and all that?
So, is this still being filmed? I shook a Fortune 500 CEO's hand in his office during one of the first few days of his command, and he called me in because my company was presumably strategic to him, and we made a deal, and we shook hands. And we shook hands multiple times on the parameters of the deal. Now, the way that the law works and the way that this works is you can't shake hands and have a complete deal, right? There are terms and conditions and everything else, but we shook hands. And then the deal didn't happen. And I submit that if you shake hands, the deal should happen. But remember, I don't fight with anyone. And by the way, it's not that I don't fight just because I want to be so good. It's also that I didn't have the strength that he had, and you got to just surrender to the universe sometimes. But that was the meanest person that I came across. Business is tough. I'm not good enough on that, to make a living doing that. And I found, though, that we brought a little bit of beauty and a little bit of kindness to business because we build these companies up at a pace where nobody sacrifices their child's, in my case, volleyball game, in this guy's case, hockey game. We all attend to our families first because, rationalizing or not, we're not trying to build something as large as we can. We're trying to build something as strategic as we can, not necessarily even profitable, but repeatable, that can then be gobbled up by the best. And then you can have your path of least resistance. You can have your technology go around the world through them, so at least you have your reach. You do make money, and everyone makes money, and that's good. But you're also being a human being while you're running the thing. So we found a way to play that isn't the best, it isn't the brightest, but it's pretty good. That's what I say when I come back here. I was a pretty good student. I'm pretty good at this, but there's a message. If you are the best already right now, or you're aiming to be the best, I just submit, just be cognizant of my trajectory of people like us. Just move through us, but just make us your backup plan. Just be happy too. Be good to your families. Be good to your ecosystems as you are taking over the world. And then have it balance out. Don't sell out everything to do that. I've met plenty of other guys who have done that. And they are famous guys, world famous guys. And they say, in the end, almost all say it wasn't worth it.
Thank you for coming and speaking. At the very beginning, you emphasized a lot the importance of keeping values and community action. And I noticed when you were talking about your work with the San Francisco Bay Aquarium, aren't NFTs incredibly environmentally unsustainable?
We're here to accomplish some things. That's a great question. I mean, I didn't even want to play after I saw all you guys filter in. I thought it would be too contrived, but I meant what I said. The respect that I have, I wanted to be in this room before you. I think you guys collectively are going to be able to do amazing things. I think you're exactly right, and that's the point, is to offset these things, not only in the work that we're doing. Every NFT we sell, we donate 25% of the proceeds to charity. Every NFT we do, we're planting a certain number of trees. You've got to do that, but still, I think these NFTs are disasters in that way. I think it's Argentina that's using, or thereabouts, volcanoes to power the energy that's required for these things. So there are definite problems with it. There are definite offsets that we have to be cognizant of. But I repeat, and I'm not trying to skirt the issue, which is also a tactic that you see so often these days. My car has no emissions. But also, every NFT we produce, we are giving back more. But the industry as a whole absolutely must change, and quickly, or it'll be regulated, or something else disastrous will happen. So you are right about the industry, and you are right that marrying that particular industry to the aquarium in this way. But in the end, the money that these things raise as a one-of-a-kind artifact, and how they can be gamified and how they can be attached this way, is a very potent thing. And these guys need access to millions of dollars to further save the ocean. So absolutely right, there are negatives, but those negatives have to be admitted to, they have to be checked, and then they have to be offset. Well, it was an example of something that we were doing that I thought would really resonate with you guys, so I wanted to mention. We've done all kinds of things. Now, you guys don't want to get involved with Michelle Phillips of the Mamas and the Papas. I mean, I think you know California Dreaming, but I'm not sure. Do you guys want to get involved with the guy who did Janet Jackson's wardrobe during the mishap, because we're going to auction all that kind of stuff? I mean, that doesn't seem worthy, as I said, of what we're trying to accomplish. I have a world-class calligrapher right now who is selling NFTs online and millions of dollars of this calligraphy. I've never seen anything like it. I think it's great. I think it's great art, but I don't think it's what we should team on. I think the aquarium is exactly the type of project. I mean, I think the ocean is exactly the type of project. It's a mechanism that we have. It's something that you can do tonight, tomorrow. And instead of just wheeling in here and saying, well, you know, these are my experiences, to actually collaborate on this, to start transacting together in whatever form to further the aquarium in a way that either you can't do individually, or in a way that if collectively, if half of you, if all of you for that matter, participate in this, we could literally change the aquarium in a week. That type of opportunity, even though it's not perfect, is something to be cherished, I think, to take hold of, hopefully.
Hi, thank you so much. I just wanted to really quickly ask, one of the biggest, I think, obstacles, especially in Silicon Valley, towards entrepreneurship is money, right? And the world kind of does revolve around the idea of money and acquiring more to be able to finance their ideas. So how has that really played into your career in Silicon Valley, and how can we solve issues with equality between people with different education levels and different financial status in them wanting to become entrepreneurs and change the world?
Yeah. An IPO, which is supposed to be the seminal event in this business, you appreciate, is just a financing. Not to disparage it, but you are technically raising just larger amounts of money for more people to complete an IPO. I've never done one of those. All my businesses have been acquired, which is kind of the one step below the IPO. But I can tell you, the amount of money we raised in the most successful thing we've done was less than $5 million. It's a lot, but in the technology business over 4 years, it's not that much. And we went up against Oracle without Sequoia, without KP, without a world-class tier 1 fund. Silicon Valley Bank has always been there for us, other smaller funds and partners, but we did a lot of the bootstrapping and the work ourselves. So when you talk about that, I think on the money side, I define myself, at least in part, in doing what I do as far as the money that's returned to investors. I think that they have to win. And if you've been with me from the beginning, you've won. If you've come in just in the last one, you have not won yet. And I'm conscious of that. And winning means, yes, an investor getting a nice return on their proceeds. As far as access, as far as getting these things off the ground, it's easier to do than ever before. I know it's still daunting, but it is. When I started and I'm sounding older, but when I started in the mid 90s, I mean, it was difficult. Databases were difficult. There's no cloud. There's no nothing. At least you didn't call it the cloud. And it was much harder. There's no virtual environment. So you can get started quickly. You can go home and become an inventor. You can ask the right questions. And yes, you can get access to capital. They have my email address. If your idea is good enough, you can have access to my capital. I mean, that's the whole point, is I was here, I know exactly what you're doing and where you're going, and let me know. And that's, it's not a pay it forward thing. I'm extremely opportunistic, just like the next person. And then you find 6 like me, and you figure out who you want to work with, and all of a sudden you're off. So I get ideas all the time. I live vicariously through many of them. And if you have an idea that you think that really has wheels and you can get moving, I'd love to hear about it wholeheartedly, is the first part of that.
Yeah, actually, I had a question about your capital. So you said before that we can submit NFTs to you, and other people could raise cryptocurrencies in order to, as you said, let our NFTs grow. What portion, if any, of said cryptocurrencies will be given to the original creator of the NFT?
It's fantastic, especially when it's like 500 against 1 that you answered that I asked that question. I mean, if it comes down to that, and we're being successful, my answer to that is we are not only hugely generous, but hugely motivated to move very fast. So it's a question of what do you want, half? You want these things get a little technical, because we got to figure out if you're even able to be employed, and then the teachers start throwing up their arms and regret that I visited and all this stuff. But if we can find a framework that and an adjunct to the money question, that is the last thing that we should be concerned with. No one complains in this business, and this is paraphrasing, about a successful outcome that they didn't own more of it or thereabouts if it's successful. They start complaining before it's happened. They start complaining before you get married. They can start complaining for all this, and then it's not going to work. But if it's working, and I'm not saying let's go do this without sorting it out, we will sort it out immediately. And I love these questions, because it seems you guys are starting to bite down on this, which is what was forecast. I mean, we may be flooded with activity over the next few days. That is a call to action, rather than just, again, flapping arms.
We'll be in touch.
As a CEO, what are your thoughts on collaborating with like the government and other like non-private parts of like the industry to help maximize like all the real causes that we talked about, such as like global warming?
Yeah. So let me tell you a quick story, just the last question. So I mentioned a gentleman named Ray Lane, who's been so good to me. He was the chairman of a company called Fisker, not the publicly traded one, but way back when, and that was Tesla's nemesis. And those Fisker guys were good. I submit they were probably every bit as good as the Tesla guys, believe it or not. And yet the government gave a gigantic load, this is in the hundreds of millions of dollars to Tesla, gave the same gigantic load to Fisker, but because of the Solyndra and other scandals hitting at that time, they yanked Fisker's financing back and basically killed the company doing that. So the point is, you have one of the world's great, like Elon Musk and others, who really owe a good portion of their careers to the government. And I say all power to them, and I say partnering with the government is a great thing to do. And I say that no one, even though the politicians in one of the last cycles got blasted for saying this, no one does this on their own. No one builds a world-class company without the security of a municipality, without the security of a border, without the security of all these different things that go into actually being able to operate in this great country. Talk to anyone who's immigrated. Of course, my parents or their parents eventually immigrated, but you talk to anyone who just got here with this and that, and they'll say the same thing. It's the greatest place in the world, bar none. And that doesn't happen because these greats built these great companies. It happens because of a convergence of a variety of factors. So I think government gets the bad rap in this. And I think government should not be blamed. The entrepreneurial safety net should not be bludgeoned in the name of government, that government is so restrictive or government is taxing. Some of these arguments, you guys, tax the 1% to 100%. It doesn't service the interest on the debt. And if you even are reading the debt correctly. I mean, how that argument has legs. With entrepreneurship, we owe all kinds of things to tangibles and intangibles that happen. The government is a fantastic partner. The government, you know, used to be where it all started, and then now we don't even trust them. We don't even trust them with some of the things that are going on. I think that's one of the worst things that's happened, and it's happened, you get me started, but it's happened in the name of some things that are just unreal. If you get the opportunity to get a government contract, and here's a tip, don't try to get your government contract by yourself. That'll take you 90 years. Go partner with someone who already has a government contract, sit in a conference room with them and get some of the money that they already have access to. You get an Air Force contract quickly. You get something like that. So be strategic, be smart, but the government, you know, is and should be, you know, your best friend. The government says, I have to wear this right now. It's annoying. I keep doing this, but I'm a citizen. I'm a citizen and a human being. And I can complain a little bit and laugh a little bit about this, but it's the least I can do. Thanks.
Hey guys, so there's some books out in front on a table out there. He's going to stop and sign those, and we have a little bit of time before one-on-ones. So if you want to head on that, but let's get one last round of applause, and thank you.